Okay, my name is Leon Ace. I work for Illogics. We're a software development company that basically develops software for the industry. The toll roads, we've done some of the toll software, the mobile police units that the car's going to use, the public website where you guys are going to go and register. So we do those type of software development for Imperial itself, toll systems, asset registers, all of that. So I would just like to establish show of hands, who is in the IT industry? Mining industry, transportation industry, civil engineering, other engineering types, government, administration, business, telecommunications. Okay, so give me an idea, what industry are you guys? Construction. So more in the civil. You? Same. Who's not in the construction? So I can establish by show of hands. Most. Okay. Who's not in the construction? You the IT. Okay, so we have half of the class. Yeah, so as Prof. Marie-Louise said, Agile is one of the techniques. It's not to say that you will use it or going to use it, because in construction there's this very strict project methodologies like Prince2 and like PMBOK and all of that people need to adhere to. So look at this from a perspective that some industries there's a fit for this. So not all of this will work in every single industry, but it's like your toolbox. You need to pick the right tools for the job you need to do. Okay, this is the agenda that I want to cover. Why Agile, the Manifesto, some economics, and then I'm going to go into the detail of the Scrum Framework, the Scrum Cycle, the Scrum Flow. How do we do measurements? Just review the new words, the vocabulary, and then where do you focus? Where do we focus when we use this technique? So just to recap or rephrase on the marshmallow challenge, the retrospective, what got out there was that ta-da moment. I've seen a lot of teams didn't put the marshmallow initially on it to see the weight, and when you did, suddenly it went. So there's a lot of things that you only realize later in your project that you might never have thought of. So we use some of the Agile techniques to address those things that's still unknown to us. So why do we use Agile? Basically to respond to change and to profit in this business environment. Things are changing, companies are moving along, so you need to be agile and adapt and flexible. So a lot of things, people don't like change, so what is selling out there is the right product at the right time at the right value, because a lot of other people will also have those ideas, and whoever's first to market with the iPhone before the Samsung, they will take a big market share. So that's usually how the industry works. We use a lot of lean principles in Agile. Lean comes from the Kanban days, the Toyota way, the Kaizen methods that was followed, and the 7 principles are basically stating eliminate waste. So any waste or documents or things that you have to redo or creates waste. In the production lines, it means that sheet and metal that have not been yet processed into a finished door, that's work in progress, and it's not yet the done product. So the other principle is always build quality in. Quality is not negotiable. Always build quality in. Defer commitment. This is what I refer to, that if you don't know the answer yet, don't make a decision now. So make decisions on the thing that you know now. So at a later stage when you're closer to the answer and more clear. So you'll see in the product backlog as well, there's a lot of things that sometimes you have to build, but you don't know how yet. So that's why you park them in the product backlog. So when you're going to do the stuff that you're working on, that will be the sprint backlog. The idea is to deliver fast software. And we have a lot of mottos like fail fast, learn from it, and go on. So failure is good in Agile. Create knowledge. whatever the knowledge that was need to be documented and shared, and as new team members come in or new guys, They need to understand, create that knowledge, see there's a repository. Because otherwise it's just in your head, and when you move out of the project, then all those learnings are gone. Respect the people. Agile is very about the people. We don't call in project management resources. Resources are cars and forklifts and trucks and that things. People are people. They're not a resource. But I understand that in project management we have resource planning and all of that. But respect the people. It's the people that's doing the people, processes and procedures. So it's always the people thing. So respect that. And then stand back and look at this whole thing and try to optimize it. Always get opinions in. So that's, I try to be lean in Agile. So where did this Agile Manifesto come from in software? There's a lot of names here that you probably won't know. People like Martin Fowler in our environment have done object-oriented programming. And we have rational unified processes, and we have team coding buddy systems where there are two developers and one machine, one laptop, desktop, and while one is typing, the other one is telling him what to do, and they change those roles. So I say that helps people to optimize and to get better at coding. So some of those methodologies and techniques these guys have come about, they came together probably one Saturday and discussed and say, going forward, what do we need for software? And they came up with this 4 lines on the manifesto. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So they're not saying processes and tools are bad. None of this is bad. It's just your focus areas. We always want working software over comprehensive documentation. It's no good if this thick document signed off by the client and spec, but there's no software that helps us. So the thing is here somewhere. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Contracts is one of the subjects that you do in your masters. Construction, mostly fixed price, time and materials. There's various contracts, because contracts basically tells you what the customer wants, at what price, and also binds you as what you're going to deliver and what's agreed. What happens in software is that there's a disconnect between the customer and the developers. So usually they build a contract with penalties and all of that, because I don't trust you. So I have to put it down in contract. If you are late on software, then this will be the penalties. And the developers are saying, but you always change your mind. Now it must be blue, then it must be green. So for every change that you do, you need to go through a change control board, change procedure. And this contract will also protect me. So if you change the scope, all of that, then the time will change, or the cost and all of that. So go through that. So the customer is basically tight in the beginning he's not flexible enough to actually change how he wants the things to do. So this will help you, and you'll see how we collaborate with the customer. We basically call him a product owner. Somebody owns the product. Obviously you need to respond to change over following a plan. So following a plan is not bad, but they're saying in software, if you have this plan and developers needs to, you can look at them as artists, So how can you tell an artist, sketch me this thing, and oh, yes, your project plan. Now you need to put the lines, all of that. He will go about and do his stuff and find out more things. And yes. Yeah. So respond to change. Change is good. We embrace change. Be adaptable to change. To change the software. So what the customer wants is value, and the quality. That's basically working software. Okay, I want to do some academics or some industrial economics. So one of the guru in the anybody industrial engineers? Engineer here? Part of your industrial engineering, when you have to optimize processes and flows and all of that, Deming, the continuous improvement cycle. So he's basically saying plan your work, do the work, always check, did it pass, fail, and then act on it. Change what works for you, all of that. So those are some of the key principles in Agile. And Deming cycle is representing the Agile flow. And I'll show you guys later, for example, the Scrum, what the flow is. Queues are important in Agile. There's always queues. Variability. Things can change. Things are that you need to control that variability. Batch sizes is important. I'm going to touch on that. Work in progress. As I said, work that's not yet done. It's work in progress. It's not a finished product. It's not a finished car. It's just a door. So, 2 doors and a bonnet also don't make a car. You need the full thing together at the end of the line, the throughput. Cadence, synchronization and flow. I'll give you an example later of the Kanban method. Who works in call centers or know people in call centers or have seen call centers, how they operate? So call centers is basically a firefighting. People phone in and say I have issues, and how do these people deal with this stuff? And to create the flow so that there's a rhythm through the system. Always feedback. You always need to do retrospectives, speak to the people, ask them what worked for them, what did not work, and change. There's some key economics behind that, and try to decentralize, not have one central place making decisions, that the people can actually start deciding for themselves. So we have teams in Agile that they make the decision when they're going to release the software or when will they do what. So you actually empower your teams better. One of these mathematical laws, Little's law, saying that cycle time is how long does it take one item to go through the system. So we also want to finish some product. How long does it take for all of these items to go through the system? And obviously throughput is very important. How much can you take the work in progress and push it through as a finished product? And you'll see when I touch on the story points in Agile or the work items, as you have done your work breakdown structure, your task, this is where it's important. Queues are stochastic. This is just a slide to show you, regardless of how many lanes you have, if there's a bottleneck, things will get stuck, traffic will get stuck. There's about 15 lanes. And if things go wrong, it goes wrong. So there are queues. We all use the queues everywhere, and I've got some examples on that as well. So we are saying that there's also queues in software development. You know, you probably don't see it. Long cycle times. There's a lot of change things that happens. I mean, then it's Android, and then it's Apple. You know, things change. Then Microsoft do a lot of changes. Big teams. There's a lot of overhead and despondency. This is an example of a queue of ShopRite. Let's use ShopRite checkers. So you're standing there with your 2 items, somebody with a basket and somebody with a trolley. And obviously you would like to pick a row, and you look at the tellers there. So the tellers are the people doing the work, and you always try to pick, oh, there's 2 trolleys, so I'd rather take this one. You make that decision, but when you get to that line, something goes wrong. Maybe the teller, or they need to do a price check, or whatever the case may be. And then you start looking next to you, and then you want to move your line, or you just stay. So this is normal principles that we experience everyday life. And this is the same for software development. You know, there's a lot of things that needs to be done. Big task and small task, and how will you do it? So then the clever guys like the Woolworths, and I see Pick and Pay is also following it. They are saying we need to try to predict how long it will take a person with his shopping to go through the system. Is it a 2-minute or 3-minute on average? So how do you get better to push a lot of people more through the system so that they will buy more, they will come to your store, it makes it easier for them, and they sell more products, and you actually don't have to wait 20 minutes in a queue. So small, so it will be small, then big trolley, and then this will be fast. So that's how they do it. And they actually got clever. They start putting chocolates while you're waiting in that big line, and sweets. So sometimes they don't want to push you too far, too fast out there, because while you're standing there, you're making lots of decisions then that you should not make. And that's when you find that sometimes not all the tellers are there, you know, and you wonder to yourself, why do I have only 1 teller or 2? And then this. Okay. There's some economics behind it, but the same idea applies in Agile. There are big tasks and small tasks, and you have 3 people that needs to work through this. Or, you know, how do you make sure that everybody gets through the system, but also learn from it and get better and get faster? so that you can actually have quality software out there. Example of variability, when Steve Jobs, who's the guy from Apple, said that he wanted an iPhone or iPod, must have a long battery life. Who's got iPods? Who played with it? Mine is now 6 years old. I have a small one and the battery is still amazing. I can power big earphones. So the battery life is good, the storage is good. When you buy the next iPod, it's exactly the same as the other one. So that's the whole idea of, you don't want an iPhone. When you buy an iPhone, then it's different than your friend's iPhone and you actually have a bad product. So they said that it goes through this iteration of development where things are uncertain, and the closer you get to your quality and gets better, the less the variability comes until you have a product that you push through the production and the result is very good. Because they say that it's unacceptable in the market for a bad phone. I think there's some in this week's news, there was a phone that have exploded. Was it iPhone? When she charged, it was still on charge. Now that is a bad, I think the effect on iPhone and even on the market share and all that will be humongous. So people don't tolerate bad products. So it's not acceptable anymore. So we use iterations in Agile, and we refer to them as sprints. So why do we use iterations? We really want to reduce the project scope, have faster flow times, as I said, push the stuff through the tellers faster, plan shorter, you only plan what you have to do for this next 2 weeks, lower risk, so if it fails, or if you have to rework this or you have to redo it, you only have to do a small portion, you don't have to do everything again. And obviously the approval is part of this whole process. Which means that you can actually try to understand this variability that you can't always control, and you try to control it because it's so small. So things that will happen is people may resign or you get new team members, and you know the effect of that actually if you have this knowledge sharing and to get them up to the level that you want them to be productive, it actually happens faster. That's why they're saying make it work for you. Batch sizes. It's the same queue size, so this is exactly that and that. So we're saying if you have this piece of work that you have to deliver and you break it up in small batches, and you start working at it. That's how we refer to it as sprints. So you break it up, all the work, and you work on small batches, and you do it in a sprint. The reason for that is less risk, as I said. If you fail at it, you only did a small piece. If you paid for software and we only see you again in 12 months time and we give you the software and the tada, so it's 12 months of waste down the line. So if you quickly do a small one and it stands, and you do another one, you grow it, you always have something that you can work on. So if another one fails, you just go back to your previous model. Quality, as I said, is very important, and we work with people. People like achievements. If you've done a project, a small thing of it successfully, you've shown it to your customer, you could see it, the morale gets better, and then the teams actually start getting more productive and more productive. People don't like failures, so you need to turn that failure into a success. Okay, the Scrum Framework. We're saying it's not a methodology, it's a framework. So you need to use of this, what you want to use in your environment. We have 3 roles. We have a product owner. So a product owner can be your client. We have a Scrum Master, which is your project manager. So my role is, I'm the Scrum Master of my different teams, but we sometimes change roles. So on one team I can be a developer, but on another team I need to be the Scrum Master, and there's responsibilities for every single person. And then you have the team, the people that do the work. We have some ceremonies. We do a sprint planning, we do a sprint review, we do a sprint retrospective, and every day we do a daily stand-up meeting. Documents that we have to produce is the product backlog. Prof. Barry said that you guys, your curriculum, your subjects that you have to do for this year, that's your product backlog. Then you break it down into what's the next curriculum, the next topic that you have to do for the next 2 weeks. That's going to be your sprint backlog. So what the team then decides with the product owner, this is what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. And you work at that. And then obviously we have burn down charts that burn down chart. I'll give another example. It's just you have this amount of work to do at this time. So this is, so you have to do 20 points of work in 14 days. This is day 14. And this is how you're going to track your work. So that's the line. So then you start working at something, goes down, and then somebody gets stuck, goes over the line, and then it drops again. So the idea is that you need to get to that point in the best possible way. And every day you can actually see your progress. So it's visible, it's there on the board. Somebody asks you, what happened here? And they say, oh, you know, we have this uncertainty, something happened, we didn't plan for this, all of that. And you can address it immediately. This is the example of the Scrum cycle. As I said, you have your product backlog, the piece of work that you've decided for the sprint. The sprint is typically 2 to 4 weeks long. You'll find in the insurance and bank industry, they have longer cycles, like 4 weeks. Our teams work on 2-week cycles. Every 2 weeks you need to produce working software. Working software is that you demo to the customer. There's another slide here just to explain it better. So you repeat this until your money is exhausted or your full product backlog is exhausted. So you have all your items that you need to do. For example, let's say Technicon wants an online web system where students can log in, see their exam results or their courses or register for subjects, where professors can log in and submit their marks, and where administration can publish information or send email or do all this documents and PowerPoints, attach it to this website where you guys can go and download it. So this may be the product website for Technicon. The owner is the Technicon itself. They say, this is what I want. The sprint backlog is with the team. So the product owner and team sits together and said, okay, for this release, give me a website that I can log in with security. Security is important. And then you start doing that for the 2 weeks. The team develops it, and then you deploy it. So after 2 weeks, it's in a release. Customer sees it, you demo to it, he logs on. Then he says the next step. Okay, now what? Now that we can log on, can't we also do this and that and whatever the case may be? Now I already have a system. Then you agree again. What's the next item? We want students to see sport information, and then you start working on that. And that's how you slowly, every 2 weeks, have software releases, and the customer works with you. He agrees with you that, you know what, we set in the original spec, that's what I want. But now somebody in the market went and did this now. University of Pretoria suddenly have this now. I also want this in my you know, and that's important. And that's how you adopt that change. Yeah, you don't have to go through a formal change control procedure. You know, as long as everybody agrees, the changes happens. Just how the flow works. As I said, the vision of the Technicon. This is the web system they want. Start planning. We have sprint planning sessions. That's when you sit with the customer. And it's usually 4 hours max. Otherwise, more than 4 hours will be too much things to do for the next 2 weeks. The team then sits together. They say, that's less than 2 hours. They plan the sprint. Who's going to do what? Where do they need to go and research something? You know, the team agrees. And then they start working doing the work. They demo the functionality, and we do a retrospective where we reflect back to see what worked, what didn't work. That plan, do, check, act. So this is the check part, and then you change what you need to change. Obviously, you have the diverse team in software. It's an example of developers, analysts, user interface designers. You start working at iteration and done iteration until you complete. And the development and the test environment is part of this whole project. In the old days, we used to develop, and then when you finish, you give it to the testers. Then it goes to, and then if there's a change, you have to fix it again in development. Now they work together. We use software that helps you. You check your stuff in. It shows you what have broken when it builds, and then people go and fix it. So as we said, the quality gets better of the products and the software because the teams live close together. Typical example of application lifecycle management. We have a design, code, test. It's the waterfall process. Now it's design, code, test, design, code, test. And so your focus of quality is on all the processes, on development, governance, and application operations. Okay, some measurements that we use. As I said, the burn down chart. You need to you estimate with so many story points or work items that you're going to do over the 2 weeks, and you just track the progress. As you park it in done, we use definition of done. I've done this piece of work, it was tested, it was reviewed, it's now done. And you mark it off. So by the end of the 2 weeks, you can actually, hopefully, the team have passed the sprint. We don't have individuals that will fail the software. We have the whole team fails the sprint. So it's not an individual thing, it's a team thing. Let me see where I need to plug this in. Velocity is important. Obviously, this was before you started with the sprint. You said you're gonna, maybe the logging system will be 8 man hours, the menu system 5, maybe the page or the technology another 5. So you've estimated 26 of work items. When you start working at it, and you've done this, almost done is not done in sprint. So you're almost finished. I don't think you get almost pregnant. So it's the same. It's either pregnant or not. And you haven't started with this. So your actual velocity is 80. So what we have found is, usually when you get new teams together, and team sizes are in Agile, it's 7 plus or minus 2 people. So 5 or 9 people makes a good team in Agile in terms of development. So we found that people always overestimate, said that I could do 30 or 35. So, and as they go about, after the 3rd sprint, you can actually start seeing how much of work can they do through the system. And you actually get teams actually start improving the environment. They get more, they get better. What we do in software is we start automating a lot of things. If somebody needs to test something, they test it once, it gets recorded. And then next time you check in the software, you just redo that recording. A person doesn't have to need to do that. That can run in minutes to see if your test has passed or failed. So that's how you automate it, and that's how you get your velocity up there. So your throughput gets better. As I said, that work in progress. You can take the work, push it out through. So once you start manufacturing those iPods, you can do millions of them. And they are selling millions when they release to market. So we take the backlog, we use sticky notes on a whiteboard. All of these sticky notes, we say this is the backlog, this is what we've selected for the sprint. Then the team goes and take the sticky notes and they put it up there and they push it through the system. So once it's done, that's when you mark it off your board and you deploy it, that's your demo, and then it's live. Students can log into the website from anywhere and access their marks or register for courses or all of that. I mentioned Kanban and Scrum for service teams, so call centers. They use the same principle. Calls come in, it's in a queue, somebody picks it in the queue, they work with the issue and they get it through the system. So with the whiteboard and the daily stand-ups, every day for 5 minutes the team gets together. Longer than 5 minutes, you need to either do a meeting, all of that. And the idea is just to get the guys together, to get the communication right. And we have these 3 simple questions. What have you done? What are you planning to do? And where do you need help? It's the project manager's role, or the Scrum Master's role. Just close this one. It's the Scrum Master's role to remove impediments. So what we mean there is, initially it starts with the coffee is bad, but sometimes you get to really serious impediments where the customer are not sure about this complicated thing, we need to first resolve it with him, and you can invite the customer to your development environment, which is not sometimes happening in other companies. You tell him this is where we are, and you can make a collectively decision. So impediments or stumbling blocks is anything that prevents the team to reach their goal. So that's your role, to make sure things are working, they have enough information, they have the correct stuff to do their job. So they are saying in IT that project managers will become less than few. It will be more Scrum Masters orientated. Because as I said, the team also rotating themselves. So for some sprints, they become the Scrum Master. 15 minutes or less, so not 5. Otherwise, you lose focus. And why sticky notes? Why do we use this? It's like a robot. If you see the robot is green, you stop it. You drive, and if it's red, you stop. So if the sticky notes are stuck in the backlog, the managers and the team can get together and say, what's happening here? No, somebody is sick, or we need more resources, or people, as I said, to help us, or we need some information. So immediately you can use that robot or that whiteboard to do a discussion. If somebody wants to ask you something, you take him to the board and do the discussion there. And you'll see.
It's going to happen within that 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So every day you do. And interesting is that in IT, as probably in any company, you find that you are sitting next to her, but you will send her an email. You will not chat to her, and she will send you an email, because people want to cover their decisions. But then there's a breakdown in communication where it was just a simple, hey, do you know what? We need to do this, or I need help here, or you said you know somebody that can, because I think most of us, English is not our first language. Communication breaks down if you start using other layers of language to communicate with one another. So we use this, and you sometimes find people, they were sitting next to each other, but they didn't ask for help. And when you're at the board, you say, but didn't somebody already done this security method? Somebody will say, yes, you know what, I know somebody that did it, and he can actually show us. And then suddenly things are resolved. So it's a communication thing. That's just facilitating communication. And you also like to see that we call it Scrum of Scrums. So all of the different projects, they need to report now back to the program officer, and he's got his Scrum of Scrum boards. Just a high level overview. A lot of words, as I said. Stuff like stories. You break down what the customer wants in small batches, and a story's got how we write a story is, me as a customer would like to have this functionality in order to help me with this output. That's a story. So you have all of these stories listed by a business analyst, and then you start looking at the stories. Then the team use planning poker to decide. So everybody's got cards, 2, 4, 6, 8, 15 or 30, and they say, this story, how long do you think this will take? You say 2, somebody says 8, somebody says 12. And you know, the 12th person, perhaps he knows something that we don't know. Then you start discussing it. Why do you say it? Then somebody will say, you know what, we've done this before, we always underestimate this work. So I say 8 or so. And you guys will do the same in your project planning. I mean, it's your optimistic, pessimistic judging of the work items. And how do you find the in-between, the mean agreed time? Definition of done. When is it done? When is it correct? As we said, quality is very important. So the team decides that if I've done this piece of work, I still need to do this, this, and this, and then it's done. Once that is done, the next guy can start working on it, so, or the test team can start. So definition of done, in some projects, for some stuff, gets more stricter, but as I said, the team starts growing that and decide on that. What we sometimes use is definition of done. You check in your code. If it breaks the system, then you have to stay after work and fix it. The other guys can go home until it's done. If the bolt passes, then the work is done. Then it's checked in and it's there. As I said, daily stand-ups. Impediments are obstacles. and it's the Scrum Master's responsibility. Velocity and flow, I've got some examples on a release plan as well. You always need to create a flow, for the people, and people actually start getting better at this. As I said, the more successes they get, and the more automation you put in place, the better the people get, and the more velocity they can push through the system, the more work they can get done. I mentioned Scrum of Scrums. It's just a summary of multiple Scrum boards, and the ceremonies, as I said, the plannings, the retrospective. So what we do in a retrospective is we have an open and honest reflection. The teams really get together and they have an open, a real honest forum where they can really say what bothered them. And sometimes it's a bit personal, where they can actually tell the team member, you know what, this last 2 weeks you really didn't do the effort, and it comes out, oh, you know what, maybe there was a family crisis, or whatever the case may be, or I don't understand this technology. The team decides who are their team members and not. We've seen some Scrum teams that they actually vote off people and say, I don't want to work with this team member, we want. So it gets to that level where the project manager don't decide what team members get together, where the team decides, and they actually pick the people that, your example of your marshmallow, I've put you together. You didn't have a choice. But you sometimes find that teams tend to do self-orientation or self-improvement. What work? We always document all our stuff. So we do a lot of documentation because we need to get that knowledge there. We have our own wikis, and so if a new team member comes in, he just needs to go through the wiki to see, what other people have learned that's documented there, and what can be improved. Always need to look at continuous improvement. As we said, that lean principle, stand back and optimize the whole. Look at this and say, guys, you are doing this thing unnecessary. Let's see if we can find something to help us with this, or make it better, or please remove this impediment. And then the next sprint, you implement what the guys have said. We have a motto, failure is good. We say fail fast, but learn fast. So, because you've done small batches, failing something small is not a train smash. See what's done, learn from it, and fix it going forward. So when we take a big project on, where do we focus? The waterfall, the requirements are fixed. If a customer wants to change later his requirements, he goes through the change procedure, but the cost may vary and the schedule. If he wants the schedule to be faster, he needs to pay more, get more people in there, or whatever the case may be, to get things done. What we say in Agile is that cost and schedule is fixed. We'll give you 8 sprints of 2 weeks each. But in that sprint, the first sprint we can do this features, then this features, then. So at some stage you can change your features. You still have your 8 by 2 weeks. And you can at number 6 say, what else do you want to do? Because the idea is that you need to have value out there. You need to have a product there that the customer actually wants to use at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to put this thing clearly for is fail fast and fail. Can you elaborate more?
Okay, so if we say we do an R&D sprint, and we say pick a technology for us to do. We've done it for one of our websites. It was asset register. So the guys had an R&D sprint, and they could test various technologies. They tested HTML5 and Silverlight and ASP, and the stuff that didn't work got quickly finished. Yeah. So sometimes it failed, but we picked the right one. And the other example is that, say you need to do something. It's a small work. You need to create a security login screen, perhaps. You've done it, and then somebody goes and tests it, and it can be hacked. It's not secure. Those stuff. Then you failed at that code, but you could learn from it. You could see, okay, but wait a minute, let me go and find people that can help me to get this thing more secure. And then you fix that, or you redo that. And next time when you do your next project, when you have to do a login screen again, you don't start from scratch again. You've learned now from this is the methods, and it's documented how to do a security one. So that's That's the idea behind it. So failure is good, as we said. Try something. Exactly with this marshmallow. That's why they say the kids done so good. They've prototyped it. They've quickly tried it. It didn't work. It's not bad. Try again, try again, try again. But we as adults are so afraid of failure. We think that we might be bad to our team members, all of that. But if you get that environment where you say, sometimes we don't know what the answer is, that you need to test something. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the road. You haven't messed up 6 months of time. You've only messed up 1 day or 2 days of time. It's not that expensive. But learn from it. There needs to be value after that, quality. So as we said, in your construction, it's always plan driven. This is how you build the road, this is the level, this is the specs. You can't tell the guys now, okay, you guys make a decision, is it what type of, it's not tolerated in some environments where we're saying it's value driven, that if you have this Samsung phone, it must have some value features for the customers why they want to use it. Otherwise they may as well use anything else. When we need to focus on stuff, we always look at risk. Any project look at risk, effort and complexity. And we ask these 3 questions, the Scrum model. What must we have? What should we have? So what could we have? And what we won't have. So customer can't have it all. You need to say we won't have that. That we must have. If we don't have that, a phone with a battery that can phones and picks up a signal, then it's useless. What we should probably have a camera as well. And all of this, what it could have is, flashlight. What it won't have is coffee machine or a radio or something like that. So ask those 4 questions with the customers, and sometimes if you look at your risk model, it will lead you to the answer. Why I say risk? Who knows about the student syndrome? We are all guilty of that. So you have your deadline there, and then you have your amount of work to do perhaps there. But what you do is you always just let it be, and then perhaps 2 days before the deadline or whatever, suddenly it spikes, and you work it, and hopefully you pass the exam or you get your assignment on time or whatever the case may be. But if something goes wrong there, it goes wrong very bad, because you didn't look at it there. As I said, you always have this skilpaatjie, the tortoise, where the day before, the 2 days before. So what we try to do is, with sprints, is saying, look at the high risk, the high value, and do that first. People are humans of habit. We love to do the low value, low risk, the easy stuff. We really like to do the easy stuff first. It's comfortable, we like it. That uncertainty thing, we don't think of that yet. We don't want to do it. And then you try to push it right to the end. So we are saying, if you don't have this high risk, high value thing, if this thing fails, the whole project is dead. It's dead. So what must that be? One of the projects we had was in the asset register. We thought the customer said it needs to look like Excel, and he wants Excel on the web. It was actually the calculation engine of the assets, how we depreciate his stuff and all of that. That was the most important thing. So we had to look at that first. So if you couldn't get the calculations right, then what's the use how it looks? It doesn't make anything. So you always do this thing first. It's not lacquer, it's not nice, but this is your key thing. Because if you fail at this, you fail in the first sprint, the project. Sorry, Mr. Customer, we're saving you 7 other 2-week sprints. We can't do this. The project did it. It's not where he sees you in 12 months' time and, you've done that, you couldn't deliver. Then you do the low risk, high value. As we said, value is always important in Agile, and then you look at the low risk, low value. And you try to avoid high risk with no value. If you fail at that, you look bad, but there's no value, so what? We also have a big project plan, a vision. Then we have epics. As I said, maybe the first epic is just where students and lecturers can log in. Then the next epic is where the public outside can subscribe or register something else. So you have your epics and your features, and then you start looking at the releases. start working that, and as you release, you complete your epics. So same principle, same milestones. There's a lot of training out there on Agile. So as I said, you'll probably have heard about it. There's a lot of buzzwords. I've given you a lot of the new vocabulary, like scrums and sprints and retrospectives. There's even Agile boot camps, for instance, where they teach the executives, the managers, the business analysts, and also the developers around the same principle. Because if you got this culture in your whole organization, and there are big companies adopting to Agile, the telecoms, Mnets, banks, because they've seen that the software framework works for them. I start using it. That's just an example of an email I get every day of doing training and boot camps. A lot of resources are out there on the internet. For instance, you can join Agile South Africa, there's Scrum Alliances. That video that I've shown you comes from TED, Ideas Worth Spreading, where they have a 5-minute or 7-minute rule where they need to speak about the topic. Go and look at YouTube, there's books, and then the Manifesto. Good. What's the time? Sure, it's very early. Okay, so I think I need to cover some topics that the other class also have asked us. Say you have your whiteboard with your sticky notes in front of it, and this is your product backlog. You guys going to do your, how many subjects you guys have? 8 or 10? 9. Okay, so your 9 subjects are there. Then you take your sprint backlog, take that one subject, you break it up in the various tasks, and then the team is the team members. How big are your teams? 2, 4, 5? 5 in your team. The team decides who does what, and they take on that work, and you guys decide. Say this is a work assignment. Do you guys need to go and present something or do something? You decide who's doing what work. There's our definition of done. So if I have to write something, perhaps research something, and you want it in this format, and it complies to that, then it's done. And then maybe the last one is where somebody compiles that. You have somebody that oversees that, and he compiles the document. Finish that, gets it done, and then you guys do the demo. So after 2 weeks, you guys are going to present or provide the paper, and then it's implemented or demo or live. Do a retrospective, what worked. You know what, we think PowerPoint is not your best area, maybe somebody else needs to look at that, or Word, whatever the case may be, and you guys are going to stay together in those teams, and do the next one. Okay, so then that's what you have your learnings. So you learn from that. So by the time you do your 3rd PowerPoint, you've already sorted out who's doing what and the process, and then that's how you go about. So this is what we call the Scrum board, and this creates a natural flow, as we said. And you want to get the finished product out there, so that when they refer to cadence or flow, is have that flow. What they do in Kanban in Toyota is they have a magic bullet or a silver bullet. So if I'm responsible just to build doors, I built my door and my work is done, then I don't go and fetch more material to build more doors. I need to look to the left and right of me. If this guy is doing bonnets and he's behind his schedule, I go and help him to finish his stuff. Because the finished bonnet and the finished door makes a car that at the end of the day it's got the value. So that's the whole idea. So we have the same in Scrum. If some states customer phones and there's a big thing that's wrong, people down their tools, they help each other to get this thing out of the system, and then they go back to their normal day stuff. So we have that same thing in the operational environment for call centers and those environments that work on Kanban, on the Kanban boards. So you will hear of Kanban boards, Scrum boards. There's various techniques out there. There's various software. Microsoft Project even got a software development lifecycle environment just for Agile. So there's already some Agile software from Microsoft, other providers that help people. Why are you still doing this paper thing on the board? It's already electronically in the system, so anybody can check it. Because sometimes you have teams, they work in different provinces or offices, and they also need to get that information, so they are not there in the morning. So what I've seen is conference calls where people do a stand-up via the phone or a web camera where they show the board. So there's various ways to align the teams and to communicate to them. Other questions? Too much information? But you guys can go back now to your company and say, we can be agile. Yeah, it's a whole process. Being part of an agile coach, sometimes you need to tell the team, they need to see the elephant in the room themselves. You can't tell them there's an elephant, you're going to run into the wall. And as they form a norm, these things come out. So by the next time they're doing it, they get better, get focused. Thanks a lot.